Welcome to the Complete Street Commission's March 11th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I'm Chair Athena Irakomos. Commissioners present include Sally Cole, Jackie Sebrian, Meredith Bergen-Bailey, Matthew Raskoff, Scott Herscher, and Kevin Rennie. City staff present include Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director, Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager, Katrine Maki, Senior Transportation Planner. Katrine, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Irakomos and members of the Complete Streets Commission. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment for any item on tonight's agenda, after the Chair calls for public comment on that item, if you're in person, we ask that you fill out a speaker card available at the back table and return it to the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, attendees on Zoom may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrine. The first item is reports and announcements. Under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Katrine, are there any reports or announcements?
Yes. Yesterday, City Council provided feedback on the Slow Streets program in a study session. Overall, the feedback was positive. Staff will return to City Council in April for adoption. The feedback was on the desire to ensure that there is an equal distribution of projects throughout the different council districts, and that council stays informed of the progress of the program, and that we update them on requests that do not meet the threshold criteria. Those were the three items that they had consensus on their feedback. And then coming up in the future there is a City Council priority setting workshop Saturday, March 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that concludes my reports and announcements.
Katrine, I'd like to thank you for that really helpful update on last night's City Council meeting. I also wanted to ask, could you provide an update on the City Council's deliberations around Pierce Road? That was a few weeks ago, or maybe Cassandra can do that for us next time when she's here, because I know she's on point for that project.
Yes. I don't recall specifics. I wasn't there, but I believe the project's moving forward.
Right.
With no major
so
changes.
Well, I think that was as well, but I just wanted to check in. All right, we'll get it. We'll confirm
Can
that.
I ask one? I'm curious. I don't know if you know. I'm just curious what was the reasoning the council had for wanting an update on projects that don't meet the threshold? If you can say.
It's a lot to summarize. There was a long Q&A period. They would like to just be aware, I think. I don't think they wanted a list of just recommended projects. I think they wanted to see what was not recommended. They were feeling very concerned about it being a program of saying no to a lot of requests to citizens. And I think they wanted the ability to be able to follow up with residents that were told no, and just be aware of what that was. I think that was the sum of kind of what it was.
Thank you.
That's a great question. I'm curious whether there was any specificity around how often they wanted staff to come back with an update. Is this an annual update or?
I don't know that it was explicitly stated, but I interpret it that way. I think as we've written the staff report and the program, it's expected to be programmed in terms of like plans for construction around an annual cycle. I don't know that it'll be exactly annual. So I think that would be the point where we'd provide it, and council specify it as an info item. So it would just go in a staff report to council.
That's right. And you said they're voting on it in April, right?
They will vote on it in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Last night was a study session.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one follow-up question. So what's the thinking about how to allocate the projects across the city? Because as I recall, the formula is determined based on street level metrics, not neighborhood level metrics. And it was about, the speed, average speed over the limit, for example. So how will that be accomplished?
We have to meet internally and discuss that.
Okay, I think it would be valuable, though, to come back to us to figure that out, because I've heard that feedback also from neighborhood members, that they were disappointed that there was no project in their neighborhood.
Yes.
So I do think it's a good opportunity to engage the community in different projects. We're not going to use the formula that we came up with last time because it doesn't meet the needs of the council, then we should come up with something together that does meet everybody's needs.
Under our rules of reports and announcements, we can't go to that, but we'll keep everyone updated.
So it sounds to me like you'll go back, if I'm understanding Commissioner Raskoff, that, and you, Katrine, that the staff is going back to the council in April with a response to that question. Okay. And so the next time the commission would hear about how the staff is proposing to apply that filter of let's make sure that the projects are spread equitably throughout the 5 districts of the city, will be to the city council in April.
And we could discuss it at our agenda setting meeting if there's substance, if there'd be time and if that would work too, we could agendize it for a future meeting as
Okay.
well.
Commissioner Raskoff, I wanted to see if you noticed in the staff report at council, they adopted what your recommendation, your motion around adding a point for the high trafficked bike and ped. Did you see that?
Maybe Katrina can clarify that for us. My understanding was that I didn't see the full text of what was proposed to the council. Can you help us?
A point for overcrossings and any potential future undercrossing.
There was a point added. I'll forward you the excerpt from the
Okay.
staff report, but they talked about the 2 points that the commission made that weren't in the staff report they gave us. And one
It was
was,
included?
yeah.
Okay, good.
And they added a point to the scoring.
Now that concludes our reports and announcements.
Okay. Thank you, Katrine. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Katrine, could you please call for public comment?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I have one public comment. Ken, you can speak.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Ken Kirshner. I'm a resident of Allied Arts. I would like to encourage Menlo Park to begin adopting AI-aware contracting guidelines for city projects and consultant work. As cities increasingly rely on consultants for planning, engineering, and analysis, many firms are now using generative AI tools in their workflows. That can improve productivity, but also raises important questions about transparency, accountability, and data governance in public work. Several public sector best practices are emerging. Cities and agencies are starting to require contractors to disclose when AI tools are used, ensure human professional oversight of all deliverables, protect confidential government data from being uploaded into external AI systems, and clarify intellectual property ownership of AI-assisted work product. Menlo Park is at the heart of the global AI ecosystem, so it would be fitting for the city to lead by adopting clear procurement standards that ensure AI is used responsibly while still capturing its productivity benefits. I encourage the Commission to recommend that staff explore AI-aware contracting language for transportation and planning consultants going forward. Thank you.
Are you aware of any neighboring Bay Area municipalities who have adopted guidelines?
I think Berkeley is one to look at,
All right,
but there may be others.
thank you.
Having no one further in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Next is regular business. Under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative topics that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is item E1, accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for February 11th, 2026. Is there any clarification from the commission before I take public comment? No. So Katrine, could you please call for public comment on this item?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and second to accept the minutes? Commissioner Rennie and Commissioner Seabrian? All those in favor, raise your hand.
If I have to abstain because I was absent, is that right?
I think it's
All right, so I'm abstaining.
so 2 abstain and 5 yes. Okay, thank you, everybody. The next item is item E2, recommend conclusion of the Neelan Park parking pilot project to City Council. Katrine Maki, Senior Transportation Planner, will present this item.
Good evening, commissioners. Today, I will present the evaluation of the parking configurations along Neelan Park. This item focuses on the parking layout along Neelan Park frontage on Middle Avenue, which was a pilot project implemented as part of the Middle Avenue Complete Streets Corridor project. This presentation will review the project history, the parking configuration options evaluated, current conditions, and then summarize the staff recommendation. The history and the evolution of the parking configuration along the Neelan Park frontage. Prior to 2023, the frontage included perpendicular parking with no bicycle lane along the park frontage. In October of 2023, a parallel parking pilot was implemented along with the buffered bicycle lane as part of the Middle Avenue Complete Streets pilot project. During this pilot period, staff received public feedback on the parallel parking configuration that identified significant and recurring safety and operational concerns, including encroachment of parked vehicles into the bike lane, limited driver sightlines when exiting parallel spaces, an insufficient number of parking spaces, and increased conflict points between vehicle doors, park users, and bicyclists, particularly during peak school travel periods. Bicyclists were observed riding in the new bicycle path positioned between the parking and the sidewalks, as well as continuing straight adjacent to the vehicle travel lane. This behavior resulted in unpredictable bicyclist movements and a significant increase in the potential conflict points between passing cyclists and park users exiting and entering their parked vehicles. In response to those concerns, staff revised the pilot design. The new design, which was the back and angle parking, improved forward visibility for drivers re-entering the travel lane as they exited the parking space and positioned vehicle doors away from the bike lane, thereby reducing dooring conflicts and enhancing the predictability of movements for all users. Finally, the design increased the number of parking spaces from 14 to 31. The bike lane was repositioned to be in line with the remainder of the buffered bike lane along Middle Avenue, providing a consistent and predictable path for cyclists. In November of 2025, the Commission reviewed the pilot and requested that staff evaluate additional design concepts. Staff was asked to consider bike lane placement, to look at an option removing parking along the park frontage, to look at an option with parallel parking, to consider mixed or time-limited parking, and then strategies to improve the utilization of the existing off-street parking lot. The commission directed staff to reevaluate the placement of the bike lane along Middle Avenue, considering separation, visibility, and user comfort. During the 2023 parallel parking pilot, the bike lane was shifted between the parking and the sidewalk. Public feedback and staff observation indicated that this configuration did not achieve the intended safety goals and created additional safety concerns. Some bicyclists were observed continuing to ride in the travel lane, while others used the shifted alignment. Movement was unpredictable, and there were many potential conflicts involving vehicle doors, loading activity, and bicyclists on either side of those parallel parking spaces. Based on these observations, staff recommends retaining the bike lane in the roadway right-of-way, consistent with the remainder of the buffered bike lane along Middle Avenue. Staff evaluated 3 potential configurations along the Neelon Park frontage, maintaining the existing back and angle parking, removing parking while retaining the ADA spaces, and implementing parallel parking. The existing condition along Neelon Park frontage is back and angle parking. This configuration provides 28 parking spaces plus 3 American for Disability Act is what I mean when I say ADA spaces. Back and angle parking provides the direct sight lane for drivers exiting spaces and allowing drivers to re-enter the travel lane facing forward with clear visibility of approaching traffic. This configuration provides the safest conditions for bicyclists traveling in the bike lane and retains the existing parking supply. The no parking option would remove frontage parking while retaining 3 ADA spaces to ensure accessibility access to the park. This configuration removes vehicle entry and exit maneuvers along the frontage and eliminates most conflicts between drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians. However, it reduces the number of parking spaces in direct proximity to the playground and to the preschool. The parallel parking option would provide 13 parking spaces plus the 3 ADA spaces. Like the no parking option, it also reduces the number of parking spaces in direct proximity to the playground and preschool. Looking at the park usage and the parking needs, the park users include visitors to the playground, the fields, the recreational facilities, the Menlo Atherton Cooperative Nursery School, and users of the baseball fields, tennis or pickleball courts. Parking demand can vary by facility, the time of day, and the duration of stay. Short-term parking is typically associated with the nursery school drop-off and pickup, while longer duration parking occurs during organized activities such as park visits, baseball games, and tennis or pickleball play. The commission also requested that staff evaluate the potential for time-restricted parking along the park frontage. Time-restricted parking is typically a tool used as a parking management tool to increase turnover in areas where parking demand exceeds the available supply. Based on staff observations of current parking conditions, the existing parking supply appears to accommodate the current demand, and the demand does not exceed available capacity. In addition, implementing time-restricted parking would require ongoing enforcement. For these reasons, staff is not recommending time-restricted parking as part of the project. These photos show the observed parking conditions along the Neelon Park frontage on different days and different times, and this is following the installation of the back-end angled parking configuration. Staff observations indicate the existing configuration is operating as intended, with drivers parking correctly. The existing configuration with the back and angle parking provides the greatest number of parking spaces in close proximity to the playground and nursery school. Based on the evaluation presented in the staff report, staff recommends retaining the bike lane along Neelon Park in the roadway right-of-way, consistent with the remainder of the buffered bike lane along Middle Avenue. Staff recommends maintaining the existing back and angle parking configuration and does not recommend options that would reduce the total number of parking spaces or implement time-restricted parking. Following the commission discussion tonight, staff is requesting that the commission recommend a conclusion of the Neelon Park parking pilot project with the existing back and angle parking configuration. Staff will then present the commission's recommendation to City Council for consideration and direction. And that concludes my presentation. I'll return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you, Katrine. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission before we go to public comment? We will have discussion after public comment. Okay, I think we have no clarifying questions. So Katrine, could you please take public comment?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press star 9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I have one in the queue, Levi, and I may have put him in the wrong place, so it's not his fault if he's commenting on the wrong thing. I apologize. Okay, but you can speak now.
Thanks, Commissioners. My name is Levi Romadine. I'm a Menlo Park resident in District 5 and a parent of the Menlo Atherton Cooperative School for the past 3 years and another 4 to go with my second child. The presentation actually addressed like most of my issues, so my 3 minutes is going to be much shorter. One thing that I didn't see in the presentation that I would have liked to see is a more cohesive look at the parking situation for all of Neyland Park and not just Middle Avenue. For instance, the parking lot on your way to Little House was repainted and it added a few more spaces. That's great. It's been working out really well, except there's some new concrete planters in a section close to Middle Avenue where there used to be parking spaces, and it's reduced the number of parking spaces. So it really ends up being a wash at the end. Also, along that area, wooden logs have been placed where people were improperly parking. They weren't really spots, but they were like half on the asphalt, half in the dirt, but they were using them because they needed more parking. Instead, the city has placed these large logs so people can no longer park there, which of course means that they're parking closer to Little House or on the street if any parking is available during those times. I would have liked to see a more cohesive look at perhaps extending that asphalt all the way to the trees, installing bollards to protect the trees, and then painting some parallel lines there so we could fit the cars that used to be there, fit them there again. Aside from that, all of the changes with the back-end parking have worked out fairly well. Looking through my notes, I apologize. Again, all of my items were mostly addressed by the presentation. So I'm of two minds with the back end. And on one hand, a lot of people mess up with the back end. And I don't mean like they just pull in, because let's all be honest, where else have you ever seen back end parking at an angle like this? Every time we see angled parking, it's usually in like a Safeway parking lot where you are supposed to pull into the angle because these are one-way roads through the parking lot. So personally, I've seen a lot of people mess this up. And this includes people heading eastbound on Middle Avenue. They will, for lack of a better term, they'll try to rocket into that parking space because there's oncoming traffic and they're trying to beat it. And so when they're going eastbound, they just make a left, pull straight in, and they're doing it at a speed much faster than I would like to see for a playground. Same thing for when they're heading eastbound and they have to essentially make a U-turn to then back in. That means they're sitting there in the bike lane, waiting until now there's another opening, because they have to wait for two openings now, one to make the U-turn, another opening to actually back in, because that swings the nose of their car into the westbound traffic. So I see both of those times, especially with eastbound traffic, I see people going too fast for next to a playground to try and beat the westbound traffic. Westbound traffic tends to do a pretty good job of stopping and then backing in. My only real complaint with the westbound traffic is that when you're heading westbound and the parking's kind of full, you can't see which spaces are the ADA spaces because the car noses are in your way of seeing the sign. We can fix that just by moving the painting on the ground closer to the street so you can actually see it. It all comes down to painting to fix that problem. As far as the number of spaces with the new back-in parking, it's fine. There's some detractors with where the bike lane should go. I mean, I'm always in favor of protected bike lanes, but the presentation sounded like it had some really good points about people in the bike lane and instead staying in the street. I could see that as being a much problem than just leaving it in the street. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment, and I return the meeting to the chair.
I have a quick question. I don't know if this maybe counts as a clarifying question, but I don't exactly remember. I have written in my notes from the last time that we discussed this, bollards on the yellow line to prevent U-turns. As the public comment brought up, people cutting across the lane. And I don't remember, I think we talked about that, but I don't remember what the conclusion was. And if anybody.
I do
remember
remember
it coming up, but
there's
I think it's because of the folks that are living on the south side of the street. If they're going west, if there were bollards in the middle of the street, they wouldn't be able to pull into their driveway.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Ideally.
That's, that explains that. Okay.
I'm happy to go. I guess I'm going to weigh in and say, I think the idea of putting some paint closer to the travel lanes is a great idea so that people can see like what those ADA spaces are when you're going by. I understand that our parking enforcement personnel are limited, like there's 2 for everything. And so at this point, like, I don't, it feels like we're left with an enforcement issue because if we can't put bollards, there's lots of signs out there. So, I mean, you can't not see that it tells you not to U-turn, right? Like there's 3 or 4 of them in the stretch of the park. And so, I have a hard time understanding how anything but enforcement will solve it. And also just as my drive by, like I ride home that way every day, and I will say that adherence to actually backing in is so much higher. Like I'll see 1 or 2 cars that don't, but generally speaking, like they're all backing in. I am kind of curious. I know that we talked about why there's no parking on the side of the parking lot that has the trees, and I think it has to do with the tree roots and stuff. But I am curious if we could find a way to allow some parallel parking over there. The other question I kind of had is something that came up late from a comment about a section of the back parking lot that is kind of prioritized for Little House. And I guess my big question is, do they have, is the parking allotted in such a way that, like, does Little House have more parking spaces than it needs? Does it use all those prioritized parking spaces? Can we adjust the time schedule so that, I don't know, I'm just curious about that sort of set aside in a parking lot that we really are saying, like, if you're traveling westbound, we really want you to use the parking lot. Like, I feel like there just needs to be a big sign there. Like one of the signs that block the bike lane and write stuff on them and say, westbound cars, please use the parking lot. Like maybe something super obvious like that for a week. I don't mind riding around it.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I am in favor of keeping the back end angled spaces.
I'll go next. So in response to the points that the public speaker Levi made, and then Commissioner Sebrian, I agree that it would be nice to take a look at his point around the painting location for the ADA spaces. That's super important. I also remember that I believe staff gave the feedback last time that the arborist didn't want parking in the spaces by the dirt spaces by the trees. But I have noticed, as Levi did, that there have been concrete planters put up where there used to be some spaces, and I think that's odd. I don't know if we ever talked about that in our meetings, but I mean, since there's clearly an attempt by staff with an investment of resources to restripe those spaces along the tennis courts and pickleball courts to create more spaces, it's odd that some were taken away. So I wonder if we could look into that. As far as I mean, I was just there yesterday, and I don't see anything there but the planters. It doesn't seem like the land is being used for any other sort of like fruitful purpose. So if we could look into that, I'd appreciate that. Let's see, is there anything else? I think overall, with regard to the proposal to just to make permanent the back-end parking, I think my experience on this between the meeting we had in November and the present time, where we're reconsidering, is that in November, in our staff report, we all took a close look at the response to the survey, public survey. And that survey was conducted in May of last year. So that would have been 10 months ago, so almost a year ago. And I read some of the comments in the survey and thought, oh gosh, people are really having trouble with this back-end parking. It's really awkward. People are having a lot of trouble. And then, so I was hesitant to make that a permanent installation. But since then, I just decided to observe more closely, and I go to the park a lot. So I was really struck, as Commissioner Seabrian said, by how many people were in compliance. I thought, okay, wait a minute. Somewhere between, maybe people got used to back-end parking, but it seems like people are doing this successfully, and that it seems like the option with the best sightlines for bicyclists, and that's a positive as well. So I almost feel like I have a refreshed mindset around the data, that the actual observed data seems to indicate that it's being used in the way it was intended and is the safest option for bicyclists. So that for that reason, I'm inclined to agree with staff that we can make it permanent. Just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. It was interesting you were talking about the U-turns and the behavior of folks in the bike lane waiting to, pack into the space. I'm curious. It sounds like you probably go there during pickup and drop off times. Busy parents, I was certainly one of them with pickup and drop off. I haven't really seen much of the kind of really bad, like U-turn type of behavior around there, but I'm there mostly at sort of 4:00 weekdays and weekends. So maybe that's just a calmer time, but I haven't seen very much of that. Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with Commissioners Seabrian and Cole and their assessment that the folks are using the back-end parking correctly. And I'm there. I live right off that, so I'm there a lot. And it irritates me when people don't abide by it. And I'm not irritated anymore, so it must be working. Yeah, it's positive. I'm very much in support of the staff recommendations. I think I biked before this project was started. I used it when we had the bike lane in between the sidewalk and the park cars, and I use it now. And I think the current configuration, I mean, it's, n equals 1, not just me, but the current configuration, in my estimation, is the superior of the 3. So, thank you.
Okay, I think we have all given our comments, that everybody who wants to give a comment has given comment. So can I get a motion? Commissioner Herscher's motion and Commissioner Cole for the second. Can you state the motion that you would like?
I move to approve staff recommendations for the Nealon Park pilot project and make it permanent.
Can we add in about the paint thing, or do we need to add in about the paint? I think do
the paint for the, putting some paint at the roadside of the ADA spaces. Do we need to add that to the motion, or is that just already in the notes?
I think either works. You can make it part of the motion. I have it down in my notes. As long as it
Okay.
will follow like MUTCD guidelines, I'm sure it won't be a problem.
And
I don't think this has to be part of the motion.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be. I've got it down.
That's fine. That's fine. But for me, I was going to add, can we suggest that staff take a look at that sort of space with the planters? But I don't think that has to be in the motion because
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think this approval is conditional. upon
Got it.
no.
Okay. And shall we vote? All those in favor of the motion? It is unanimous. That concludes item E2. Okay, so the next item is informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The first informational item tonight is update on major project status. Katrine, could you give us any updates?
I do not have any updates. I can return the meeting to the chair.
Do you still have to call for public comment?
I will, just in case.
Okay.
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raise hand feature. If you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, Azalea, Azalea, do you have comments or announcements?
Yes. Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Azalea Mitch, Public Works Director. I just wanted to let you know that the rapid flashing beacons were installed on Middle Avenue and they're activated. And the feedback signs are, the contractor has them and they are scheduled to install them later this week or next week.
Thank you
So
so much.
that project is almost done.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
Okay.
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Seeing no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Bergenbilia, you have
I was asked to give a brief informational update on a meeting that the county just had about Coleman Avenue, which the city portion came before this body a little while back. The county Supervisor Gaucher and her staff and other county members tonight, actually from 6 to 7, had a public meeting about it. Multiple of us logged in as it is of interest to this body, and also for several of us personally as our children use that route. Unfortunately, we could not finish the meeting because of this meeting, but it does sound like what the county has chosen to do in the Coleman County portion is to kind of do a tiered improvement system. They want to start with something very easy to do and something very easy to reverse. If that does not solve the issues that the community is having with the space, they will bump up to the second tier. The first tier is basically traffic calming. 3 speed bumps will be installed in a variety of spots along the county portion. If that does not solve the issue, it sounds like tier number 2 would be a one-way only availability for that portion. If that does not bring the solution that the community is hoping for, then it will move up to tier 3, which was a no through traffic option. So they're going from the easiest, fastest, easiest to reverse to the most difficult, just kind of doing it on a phase by phase. And as soon as they feel that the situation has been solved, then they will stop. It sounds like the tier 1 pilot will go on for 1 year and that it will be installed. I think I saw before we had to close it out in 2 to 3 months. But the meeting was recorded. If anybody does want to access that, they can certainly do so.
Before you adjourn, I have a question to ask, but not related to all of this, but go ahead with your thing first. No, it's not
Oh.
related to Coleman.
It's interesting that the installation of speed bumps. I'm trying to remember, Katrine, well, you all know, you live right there. In the installation on the traffic calming measures on the city side, we do have speed bumps? Okay, and do they extend all the way to the end? I thought so. Okay. So I know that there's some other commissioners who feel strongly about that, extending speed bumps all the way to the end. So I wonder, I guess if people do feel strongly about that design or how the county might approach it to give feedback to the county, since they haven't designed it yet.
The issue with the city portion is it goes into the bike lane, but there is no bike lane in the county portion. In multiple parts, there's barely even a shoulder. So I don't know if it will be as much of a, but let me build off that. Katrina, I assume that the Coleman pilot will come before us again. Is that correct? To look at any community feedback about, okay. Do we
Yeah,
have a
so
date for that?
you already heard like the kickoff of the pilot, and so then staff will return for a conclusion of how it went, of summary of recommendations, next steps.
And I believe that pilot was meant to go for 1 year, which I think comes up in August. Is that correct?
And I think we considered that last May. Was the installation in August of the?
I feel like the final, was it June or July?
I thought it was June or July.
Okay.
I think
It was before school started.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe it was in place for, at least certainly the stop sign was in place for a while before
The speed
before
bumps.
school started.
Oh, okay.
I think the speed bumps went in after the stop sign, I think.
That was my memory. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they were around for a while before school
Okay.
started.
So we might see it again like early fall to give staff enough time to gather data and community feedback. Okay. Thank you.
I have one quick question. I don't know what it falls under, but it's on Middle Avenue, so it's sort of connected to the discussion. So at the end of Middle Avenue where it runs into Olive at that stop sign, and we set up a bike lane and a single lane for everything. And there used to be like 6 bollards separating the bike lane from the lane of traffic. I don't know, 6 months ago, I noticed that the 2 closest to the stop sign were gone. And I feel like I emailed about it, but sometimes I just think that I email about it and then I don't actually do it, and it just rumbles through my head. And what I notice is that cars sometimes are then pulling across the bike lane for their stop to turn right because those bollards are gone.
Is this on?
At Middle and Olive. And I feel like when I was riding home the other day, there's only 2 bollards and you can see how there used to be more. I feel like I would like to revisit all those bollards coming back because I just feel like as the bollards disappear, the cars are going to start like driving in the bike lane again, which I would not like. They already kind of are like, yeah.
I would second that because I know I live near there. And when we were considering Olive and Middle, I think we all acknowledged that it was a lot of rolling rights. And we definitely got public comment about that from Olive onto Middle going toward Hillview School. And I do think with kids using the bike lane, they expect to be protected there. And we did have that really good conversation at the commission about how that bike lane would be designed. So I really would love.
We can create a work order to have it fixed. It was
Okay.
never probably
Thank
hit
you.
by a car. And
Okay, thank you. That's really, because especially back to school. Okay, great. I do have one question of
Thank
procedure,
you.
which is, do we need to take public comment because we had a conversation around Coleman? I'm afraid I don't know the right procedure there. But,
well, we didn't take any action. They're not
Okay.
action items.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any subcommittee reports? No. Okay. I guess I will adjourn our meeting at 7:19.